Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see that the population is building up on something which is extremely important from the times which we are seeing, whether it is crisis or risk or opportunities. I think we are all here to understand from the industry leaders what is that they are thinking in terms of corporate real estate and facility management. So, welcome to the virtual version of Leadership Forum, which RICS does to make sure that we continue to collect the thoughts and the voices of the industry to ensure that we present that in, essential thought leadership to the industry to make sure that they adopt and try and pursue the path of professionalism while they are working in their organization. So, let me introduce the elite panel whom I have. I have Mr. Hari Prasad Hegre, FRICS. He's Senior Vice President and Global Head Operations for Wipro Limited. Unfortunately, because of bandwidth issues, there are challenges with his video. You may not be able to see him. I have Mr. Narayanan Vardarajan, MRICS, Senior Vice President, Head of Property, Standard Chartered Global Business Services. I have Captain Vinod Rajan, Vice President Corporate Real Estate and Workplaces at an MNC, again a large occupier. I have Mr. Ambar Mitra, Regional Head Real Estate and Facilities for Microsoft. I have Mr. Biju AK, MRICS, Director Corporate Real Estate India and APAC for Cognizant. I have Mr. Arpit Mehrotra, Managing Director of Office Services for South India, Colliers International. Mr. Shaju Thomas, Senior Director, Office Services, Chennai Colliers International. It's important, and I must thank Colliers for being the knowledge partner and being able to put up exciting array of very, very thought-provoking questions on this. So before I get into straight away a question and answer mode, given the fact that we are seeing a lot of conflicting news, and when I say conflicting news, whether there is going to be an opportunity for India as a country, on the corporate real estate, we are also seeing a situation wherein rentals are the first thing which people are looking at reducing. So in terms of the things which are shaping up in the CRE world right now, Arpit, may I actually request your take on how you think corporate real estate market is behaving currently and how it is likely to fare, especially with respect to rentals, their mechanisms on the commercial office space, residential, retail outlets. Uh, so let's begin with you, Arpit, with that context. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimesh, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, the fellow speakers on the call and everyone. So, Nimesh, like you rightly said, disruption comes in many forms. COVID-19 is the latest curveball, which is business as usual. Economic growth forecast for 2020 may have fallen fast since early March. However, the historical examples of economic slowdown suggest growth may recover rapidly in 2021. Quicker economic recovery should be help us to pick up the property deal volumes, with majority world economies still under the grip of novel coronavirus outbreak and uncertainty on the subject matter. So on the rental trends in office market, while most of the office markets in India are running on a single digit grade A vacancy, we don't foresee a major impact on the rental volumes in grade A assets in the short term. While the demand for the new space will certainly get affected due to the ongoing pandemic, we foresee that the new business models and the startup might emerge to fill this gap. In short term, consolidation of flexible office spaces, re-gearing the lease terms, and the delayed decision making may appear in the key trends, and the market fundamentals to remain unaffected in the long run. We might see some impact in the rental values only if occupiers give up some part of the portfolio space to optimize their cost in the short run due to the business impact of the COVID-19. Now, coming down on retail, the retail sector might see a lot of challenges in the business models after it emerges post-COVID. Lockdown has forced people away from their traditional consumption habits, resetting what they would want on the other side. There will be a lot of pressure on the occupiers in the short term and the renegotiation in the leases from the long term perspective. We foresee the business models might get changed in the long term. lockdown of malls, shopping complex, multiplexes, etc., and the footfalls of these spaces are expected to fall significantly. So these are the challenges we see in the retail, the residential sector. Anyhow, everyone is aware that typical rental return in the residential flats ranges from 2 to 3%, depending on the location, quality, construction, and other reasons. We foresee limited rental appreciation in the short term. The living sectors are generally viewed, which are more resilient in the face of a downturn. However, the different subsectors are very different characteristics. With social distancing becoming the new normal in the academic seasons under scanner, the building sectors of co-living and the student housing may foresee a backseat and the experience lower. So we see short-term impact, Nimish, on this, but the fundamentals of the business in the long term remains very strong.
That's great news, Arpit. If we are able to see that this is short-term blip, which I think is possibly the case in many other geographies as well. But India, if we are able to see the V recovery sooner, I think we are home with respect to our economies as well. If I actually now try and bring up the question to the panelist over here, and if I can get Mr. Hegde's view on this, that's where my first question comes to him. And which will be followed by a response from Mr. Narayanan also. With an expected relaxation by the government to resume business operations in coming weeks, what do you think are the key measures which you and your organizations are adopting to ensure health and safety of employees? Mr. Hegde, can I have your take on this, please?
Yeah, Nimish, are you able to hear me?
Well, sir.
Are you able to hear me? Am I audible?
Sir, we are able to hear you very well, sir.
Okay. You know, I have a completely a different take, or reasonably a different take than Arpit on the pandemic, as well as on the economy. Though I am not an economist, nor am I an expert on pandemics. Having been deeply involved in our own response to the pandemic, I have a different view, and I would like to state that, because all my answers and all my responses will have that in the background. If you could permit me, I'll quickly sort of state what I think and what we have gathered in terms of both economy and recovery. Nimish.
Sure, sir. Sure. Looking forward to.
Yeah, some quick points. Even when the lockdown ends, we are not entering a normal world. And it's not like we've had a long holiday and we are back to work as usual. It's not going to be that. Normalcy in social as well as big business activities will happen, or we will enter that phase only when the vaccine is discovered and there has been adequate production of that and it is administered. An estimated time is anywhere between 18 to 24 months. So we are not entering the normal world for another 18 to 24 months. Now I'm talking of just in terms of the way we go about doing business and the way we go about socially interacting with others. In this period of 18 to 24 months, there will be spurts of eruptions of the pandemic. Hence, you will see spurts of lockdown and relaxation. And hence, you will see extreme unpredictable disruptions in this period of 18 to 24 months. And real economic recovery, some views are that they are as far away as 48 to 60 months. When I say real economic recovery, I mean the same trajectory as the pre-COVID getting set moving forward, right? In this period, many businesses will survive and many will wind up. All of us, all the businesses across the sector will have severe cost pressures. There will be very low capex, we're already resetting ourselves, even as an organization, and many others are doing it, right? Every contract will get negotiated or renegotiated or at least reviewed. Cross-border movement will be restricted. Every country will restrict cross-border movement, right? So hence you will see a sort of a review or a rewinding for a period at least of the idea of globalization. You will have more protectionism coming in. And this will also significantly accelerate work from home. When I say it'll get significantly accelerate, what I mean is that it will get universalized. That means earlier you had some large corporations, particularly from the developed economy, do about 16 to 20% of work from home. That will significantly increase, and it will be for both large and small businesses. This is the 18 to 24 months scenario that I visualize, right? Now I'll come to answer your question, and you will see that it is significantly different view than what Arpit has. With that view, my bit about how will we operate post relaxation, I'm not getting into the details. It's being handled by my team that manages facilities, but I will bring out two things. One is, how will we operate our facilities? We have broken that into two parts. One is immediately post lockdown, resumption of work, right? And there are standard operating procedures that are in place and that are getting refined. The second bit is also about how will we operate for the next 18 to 24 months. That's a long period. So how that 18 to 24 months, what is the standard handbook for us to operate in that period is also being formulated. We will be ready with that in about a week to 10 days time. I would say that's that will be with others. I will pause here, Nimish.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for your take. For our attendees who have joined in and recently joined in, may I suggest, in case you have any questions, if you can see at the bottom end of this panel, you have a tab which says questions. You can ask your questions over there. Our team will be working very closely to ensure that those questions are posed to us. In case you want to basically pose it on to a panelist specifically, please mention his name against it so that we can pose the question to him. So that's on the bottom right hand corner of this panel. Mr. Narayan, you heard what Mr. Hegde said. What's your take on this, please?
So I will look at it in a completely. Thank you, Nimish. I will take it in a different one. As almost all organizations will have a standard practices like temperature scanning, wearing of mask, hand sanitizers, frequent cleaning of common touch points. All those things will happen. Apart from that, everybody we will try to do the standard social distances maintaining, like removing the alternate seats in the cafeteria, and ensuring that wherever you have a kind of a dispensing stations, maintaining a proper queue and everything. That's given, and almost all organizations will take care as per their requirement. That will be. But what we need to concentrate more on is pre-COVID or whenever it is. We are all good in taking care of quality aspect in the service delivery, customer experience, risk and control, and taking care of the health and safety of the employees in the office. But current pandemic spread shows that we need to extend the support beyond individual employees, but to the full ecosystem, including the employees' families and the contractors in the workspace. We need to worry about the wholesome wellness. In addition, not only the physical well-being, we need to more concentrate now on the mental well-being. So the plan for our organization is like organizing more online programs, and which speaks about wellness on the mental side as well as the physical side, specifically curate for the entire family, and encourage the whole family as together to participate in it to create a better environment. And the second aspect is the work from home, whether we like it or not like it, it is going to stay, and that will have a different till on your performance levels. See, office space acts as a great level playing field. Uh, whoever come into the office all get the same kind of a workspace, same kind of a work tool. So the deliveries come from the same platform. But when I sit at home, many people have a proper setup for the work office. Many may not have even a proper chair to sit in. You will not have a proper place to on the house environment. People staying in a PG, people staying in a small houses may not have a proper work tool or proper network to work on. So now we need to work to ensure that this kind of enablers are managed and provided a proper platform to them to ensure they are able to provide a better performance. Else you are looking at a despaired performance level, which leads to your health and safety requirements and overall the delivery aspect. So we need to work on these two aspects very carefully. Nimish, not able to hear you, Nimish.
Yeah, sorry. I was on self-muted thing. Thanks a lot for bringing in that perspective, Narayan. It's extremely important that while we are talking about mental health of employee, and this is where my next question goes to Captain Vinod Rajan and Amber, followed by Amber. If you're looking at situations, if you're hearing stories around retrenchment, around salary reductions, so on and so forth, ensuring that the employee confidence at the workplace is critical to smooth business operations. What are the specific employee-centric measures that are being adopted, let's say in your organization or generally in the industry? So Vinod, if I can actually begin with you, please. You're
Sorry, I was
muted.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Nimish, I could hear you. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it, this is this kind of a situation that we are here today is, I would call it, one of the rarest kind, a massive work from home experiment that is happening, right? And teams are actually awakening to the new realities of working from remotely or working from home. Teams are awakening to the fact that, some of the people are losing their jobs. I've seen, especially in in MSMEs and in companies which are in the travel sector, people are actually losing jobs and they've been asked to go on bench and things like that. And it's creating a whole lot of chaos across places and across companies. The reality is difficult to digest sometimes. But having said that, there are companies who have taken a step on this and actually trying to mitigate these issues and actually trying to make sure that employees feel safe and secure in terms of their employability. A lot of things in terms of communication regularly with the employees, making sure that the employees have a clear-cut communication given to them, provided to them. That's one of the things that many of these companies have started doing. I'm sure more so in the IT and ITS sector and the BPO sector, I think there's a lot of work going on in that field. And they're also looking at keeping people motivated, keeping people in good humor. So a lot of things at the back end in terms how the HR deals with people, how HR deals with the problems that people are facing, not at their workplace, which has now become their home. So those are being addressed. Psychological, physical, and other problems are being looked into the companies. But reassuring them, constantly being in touch with them, are some of the things that companies need to do, and I'm sure are doing at various levels. So it's not just if short term, probably there could be pain, and there will be pain in many companies. But long term, I think situation will get better, and things will slowly and steadily move back to getting back and thriving.
Yeah, thanks, Vinod. Amber, if I may lead the same question to you, please. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I will kind of build upon what Vinod said. What is very important today in today's situation is communicating at regular intervals. Even over communication is better today. Reinforcing people The safety of them and the families come first. Keep the morale up. Try online cooking classes, yoga lessons, and we need to spin positive stories around everything what we are doing. Because today, if you really see, there is a huge fear of insecurity and being disconnected, non-productive feelings, etc. It is very important of being agile at this hour, enabling employees with necessary tools to be productive from home. Also, it's important, what we see is to have empathy towards the new work environment which employees find themselves in. When I say that, we need to be cognizant that we need to schedule meetings with shorter durations and allow employees to take time off in between the day to attend any of their home related tasks. So this is what I feel as industry. These are some of the specific employee centric measures that we really need to look into and adopt.
Thank you, Amber. There are quite a few exciting questions which are coming up, and I can see that there is a very engaged attendee list which we have, and I'm sure we'll come back to those questions later on also. But I think you brought in a very important point. As RICS being the thought leader worldwide in the industry, we have been trying to promote a philosophy of conserving cash and conserving talent. And that's where I think a balance needs to be identified between conserving cash and conserving talent so that the right set of messages are being flowing to the market. So thanks a lot for endorsing that view, Captain Rajan and Amber. That will basically lead me to the next question, which is to Biju and Amber, again you. If I can start with Biju. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, business continuity plan, business process reengineering has become integral to every organization's asset planning. What are the essential elements for a successful business continuity planning, and how do you mitigate those risks? Because earlier, while risk management was an essential part of overall management theories, but till we were hit by this, or till we are hit by, let's say, a flood in Chennai, or till we are hit by a extreme pollution level in NCR, we possibly see those as black swan events. So, how does one mitigate the risk in ensuring that there is a successful business continuity plan?
Thanks, Nimesh. Nimesh, BCP is always an integral part of an organization. In some cases, it has to be in line with the customer whom we work for. Otherwise, most of the organization has a strong, dedicated BCP team who works for addressing the disruptions in the business. So it's important to understand how generally BCP works to bring in the right perspective of the current situation. So what BCP team generally does, they simulate situations or scenarios and prepare a draft mitigation plan and test it continuously for our readiness. So this ensures that every organization has a draft mitigation plan for disruptions which we have already seen or which has been happened in the recent past, or disruptions which human as a social animal can anticipate. But today we are in a unique situation, and none of us has anticipated such a situation wherein we have to enable 100% workforce at home. So as a team or BCP team today realizes that we need a new BCP playbook to redefine the mitigation strategy or the way we address crisis. So when we come to the question, the essential elements for successful BCP, basically this means how well we do, one, the impact analysis, two, the risk assessment, and formulate a BCP, and fourth one is testing that BCP. We also need to understand the impact analysis has to be in two levels. The first one is it has to be on the enterprise level, wherein we identify the client who has major influence on our business as a whole. The second one is we understand the function, each of the functions, and each of the projects, and prepare a BCP plan. So this is the way we generally we assess, and these are the essential elements of any BCP, and which we need to take along with us always as an organization. And then the second question is mitigating risk. Generally, the risk management principles, we follow the same thing. Wherever we can accept the risk, it's not always same as for the disruptions like what we are talking about. Then avoid risk, of course, this also is not possible. But certain time, we always can pass the risk. May not be a situation like COVID-19. But by and large, we manage the risk and mitigate in line with the risk management principles. I will leave it here, Nimesh.
Thanks a lot, Biju. Thanks a lot. So, Amber, if I can have your additives on top of what just Biju said. Amber, you're muted, please.
Extremely sorry about it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we can.
Now, let me first talk about the essential elements for a successful BCP. BCP is like an insurance. Larger the plan, higher the premium, and it's all about the ability to work securely from anywhere. Adopting cloud first and virtualization has enabled most IT corporates to work from home. Now, there's a need to have trial runs of BCP at regular intervals. Periodicity and test BCPs could become the norm. It's important that we keep repairing our existing BCP plan or make one which should be tried and tested in the current situation. And often we see that the old BCP will show some loopholes in the new challenging situation like currently that we have. And when you said there was a flood in the Chennai, there was a different BCP. When we have a COVID, it's a different BCP. So there needs to be a centralized decision making. We need to have a core team who are connected to the entire team for assignments or checking in on any updates, etc. What we have seen is very critical here is to have faith in the ability of the team to come together in the crisis. If that is not there, then the entire BCP will fall through the crack. And then it's all about establishing an easy protocol. Employees should be confident to follow the easiest way to reach out to the escape or next manager at required times. There has to be easy access to tools for business management. And in this, I will say, last but not the least, is about the vendor management. Ensuring a set of vendors are contracted with SOWs which are flexible and easy to implement quicker and faster. So this, I feel, are the essential elements for successful BCP. And when you talk about how do we mitigate the risk, to me it's only one thing. As the Scouts motto goes, be prepared. That means having redundancies in the backups for pretty much everything that we do, whether it's people, process, material, machines, equipments, etc., to deal with any eventuality. So you might get slow or low, but not really dead. So that's what I will say is the mitigation plan. Mitigate the risk.
Thanks a lot, Amber. I think that's a great insight into ensuring that how does one try and plan a risk management plan which goes in line with your BCPs. So coming to your point, which was basically try and talk about a new normal again over here, wherein we will see that, and I heard Mr. Hegde talking about it, and Mr. Hegde, if I can have you again on this. When you said 18 to 24 months, the new normal will be basically working from home for most of the people unless the vaccine is administered to a large set of population. So in making sure that while employees are working from home, how do you see data security? Is that a challenge, and how do you make sure that we mitigate this challenge of data security when employees are working from home? Do we have Mr. Hegde?
To respond, Nimish,
Yes, sir.
Working from home. Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, the whole idea of working from home, that shift has got completely accelerated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like just our own organization, we today have more than 90% of them working from home.
Right,
So what's actually happened is that businesses and organizations at the deep end of the pool, and they have learned to swim, right? So, so the issues of data security, yes, there have been increased cyber defenses have emerged. So I don't think that data security is going to be an issue around working from home. Will have other challenges in terms of making sure that there's a process, efficiencies are nailed, all of that, right? That I think will get refined in the coming months, and we will have large percentage home, and that's what I call as universalization of working from home. And you will have large as well as smaller companies also having their employees work from home. That's my response.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. If I can have Mr. Narayanan also his take on that.
Okay. When we enter office space, subconsciously we get elevated to a high alert environment. Regular practices indoctrined over a period of year, that environment itself elevates you to adhere to the higher security practices. You don't get away from your chair without putting control lock del. You ensure that you don't venture out beyond the prescribed websites and internet browsing and everything. You have a controlled, and whether you consciously do or unconsciously do, you are in a controlled environment. But when I'm sitting at home, I'm completely casual and I'm in a relaxed manner and at a lower alert level. This psychological difference itself going to make a big difference in the security challenge what it is going to come. So organizations need to have the regular training and communication to the people to ensure that the requisite alert levels are built in automatically. Apart from that, every organization need to put in endpoint protection, strong firewalls, multi-factor authentication, VPN environment with encryption, good telecommunication facility. That's going to be a key differentiator that need to be done. The bottom of the one is you need to have a regular training, communication to people, the policies that need to be adhered while you are in the office, same need to be done at home. That's going to be the key differentiator.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Narayan. So, Shaju, if I can come to you now, in terms of overall impact of working from home and things like those, what are the core priorities that CRE teams would be looking at post-COVID? And when we say post-COVID, there is already a statement that this might last for 18 months. So I'm not sure how would you want to basically segregate it in a phased manner, or is there an answer straight away?
Well, first of all, thank you, Nimish, and I want to thank all those who have joined us for this webinar. When we began to hear, or when the effects of COVID-19 were beginning to be felt, let's say in the second week of March, we spent a lot of time with the CRE fraternity, and I just got off a call with somebody who said, the job of a facilities manager is anything but routine, and it can't be further from the truth in the current scheme of things. In the earlier stage, during first week of March, second week of March, the CRE team was completely running to ensure that they were able to hire desktops, laptops, internet devices, UPS, the paraphernalia, all that was required for enabling people to work from home. And then a couple of weeks later, it was trying to support these teams and be in sync with business. Right now, and like how Mr. Hegde had mentioned, I think it's work in progress on putting together that playbook on what needs to be done post-COVID. But if you have to ask me, I mean, if I have to say what would be key priorities, if I can quickly pick and choose, let's say the three top things that come to my mind. One, of course, would be on the contractual, on contracts, essentially revisiting all kinds of, revisiting the entire real estate portfolio, trying to understand if there needs to be any kind of restructuring to be done, running a stay versus go analysis, considering that capex today could be a problem, reduced densification because of the social distancing. Would that mean take up additional smaller spaces, co-working? Not co-working, I would rather use the term business center, because business centers, you hardly found 4x2 and 3.5x2 workstations back then. So, and of course, blending in what's called the work from home. A lot has been spoken about work from home, but then looking at it, in totality is what I think would be one of the key to-dos in the list of CRE. Secondly, of course, what occurred to me was another topic that we all just spoke about was from the BCP perspective. Chennai is not new to BCP. If I can take you back in time, December 2015, we had the once 100-year phenomenon of the rains and floods. 16, we had something called the Cyclone Varda. We had the Jallikattu incident. We had the demise of the chief minister, former chief minister. All these events required invoking BCP. And so the CRE fraternity here is very well equipped, are extremely resilient, but then to build in BCP norms for any exigency of sorts is what I think the priority would be on. Finally, and I think this would be most important, and I want to call it wellness. Wellness, I think, is now moving beyond a tick in the box from a EHS perspective. And like Narayan had said, looking at it from a holistic perspective. Now, CREs put their heads together. Strategizing is one thing, but it has always been a challenge. And I'm speaking from the CRE perspective, which is a lot of hard selling has been required to the end user, to the internal customers of CRE teams. We have a lot of loud messages in what I want to call the bathroom etiquette. You've got lots of messages, how to use how to use a WC, how to use wash basins and stuff like hand tissues meant for wiping your hands and not for cleaning shoes, right? And we know what is happening from the end user perspective. But however, considering that this affects individuals' lives and individuals' health, I think it will be a lot more receptive. We will start seeing a lot of visual communication on meeting room etiquettes, on dining room etiquettes, on pantry space etiquettes, and so on. So the silver lining, like I said, is essentially there would be a lot more. They would be a lot more receptive in having these. I would think these are some of the top priorities from the CREs in the CRE's diary, and overall, quite a bit of reshift in the paradigm can be anticipated. Nimish.
Thanks a lot, Shaju. We are running slightly behind the time, so I'll try and expedite some of those things. So I'll try and club few questions, Arpit. They're coming to you right now, and they seem to be slightly linked to each other. There is a question which is talking about a research being conducted by malls, which says 35% of customers will return in 1 week and another 35% in a month's time. And then there is a question which is talking about an impact on rentals and CAM. Will they be reduced by landlords in view of reduced revenue? So my question to you is, how do you see the impact of this pandemic on the urban real estate through this financial year and possibly the next financial year? Arpit, you're inaudible, please unmute yourself. No, we can't.
Can you hear me now, Nimish?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Now, firstly, coming down, what is an impact of this? So we foresee a decline in investments in the short term for sure. We see it that post-COVID and how this COVID shape up, we will see how this will come back very strongly. Office sector might come back much faster over the housing sector because that's the norm, and the faster the office will come back, the faster will be the residential market will come back. Construction activities are currently halted. We see new launches and ongoing projects completion expected to take a hit. So these are the challenges which we foresee about it. Now, coming back, the queries about will landlords give the relief? I think this this is a question which has been going down from the last 3 weeks, not even in India, but in fact in the entire Asia Pac, where I have been part of these discussions. Now, what we realize that the governments where the rent reliefs are being given, those countries are providing, those landlords are providing immediately those reliefs immediately to those clients. Remaining, there are certain landlords, one-time landlords and strata sales landlords are even discussing about it. Rest, everyone is in work in progress mode. Few of the responses we have seen it as has come in this manner, that since your servers and building maintenance were already operational, and within the even the small lean team which was operating an asset, even the cost has become higher for them just to manage the building operation charges. So the business was able to work from home because the building was operational, the servers were operational. So we see both sides of views coming in, but yes, once in full clients we hear about it, is talking about it. But in a larger scale, I see in the next few contracts or the new long contracts, other than the force measure, probably from a legal contract, we might see something related to pandemic, which will come much more strongly. Nimish.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Arpit. And I think while we are looking at the risk side of things, there are possible opportunities also. While the question is being asked, a very interesting question.
Yeah.
But are there opportunities in technology sector? So I'm going to pick it up with Captain Vinod Rajan in this case. So if you're looking at technology being taking precedence in our thought process today, Mr. Rajan followed by Mr. Hegde, and if Arpit, you can come in later on also. What do these opportunities look like? And as a question has been asked by an attendee also, do we foresee a trend in shifting business processes such as global in-house centers from Europe and US to India, or is there increased business from the West in this case? So are there opportunities in the tech sector, and are there opportunities because of global hedging of business risk of being in one location?
Sure, Nimish. Thank you. Let's look at the state of affairs that the world has been in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, the global tech industry, including us, we were very, very dependent upon the Chinese vendors, right? Whether it be for design, whether it be manufacturing of components or systems. Now, what has happened? COVID-19 struck all of us, and this has caused a major disruption to the global supply chain. Okay, we have seen the closure of Chinese factories happening, supply networks getting significantly affected, specifically with regard to technology companies. So I'm sure that people, companies around the world are going to look at India from that angle point of view. And if I can say something here, a few days back I was listening to some chat happening on the TV, and there was this government official was saying that about 1,000 odd companies, global companies, have shown interest in setting up their manufacturing and R&D establishments in the country, in India. I mean, they are still in talks, but at least that interest has come across. So we see that that sector is certainly going to go up. But when it comes to pure technology, I see there is going to be a lot of benefit for us, in specifically in terms of cybersecurity or anything that is related to innovation. Let's remember that there is going to be a massive disruption in the way the post-coronavirus tech scenario will emerge. Instead of companies who were all this while doing innovations in small bits and pieces, I'm sure the technology companies are going to focus on full-blown innovation, and we have shown resilience, and we have the human capital. I believe that we can emerge better than other countries here.
An interesting question which has come in is can the technology help us create contactless surfaces and other measures? So that's a very interesting one. That's come from Nisha Sharma from the attendees. So very interesting one, very visionary. But what's your take on that? And then I'll go to Mr. Hegde on his take on this as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, that's a very interesting question, and we have seen it. I was watching TV yesterday. I saw the Dubai police, actually wearing goggles and monitoring people's temperature, walking on the streets. I was blown by that. Several startups are looking into deploying drones. AI is going to take a big thing. We have seen robots being utilized in the state of Kerala managing patients and delivering certain stuff inside the hospitals. Patrolling public places will be dependent upon AI. Going forward, I see more such innovations on the anvil. Applying
Thank you.
technologies
Thank
such
you.
as machine learning, AR, VR, all that is going to pick up. No doubts about it.
Thank you, Captain. So if I can have Mr. Hegde's view on the opportunities on the technology side and some of the businesses coming from these Western countries to us, what's your take on that, sir? Do we have Mr. Hegde in?
I think he's on mute
Yeah.
because I can
So,
hear him talking.
let me break this into two parts. Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Very well.
Yeah. Nimish, let me break this into two parts. One is that I think there might be a connected question later. Yeah. So one is, will there be a significant opportunity for business flow into India, and will India for such flows, right? Now, let me break that again further into two parts. One is service, particularly tech. India has been a preferred destination, and that will remain to be a major change in that. It won't sort of be more attractive destination, right? So, to manufacture is particularly in manufacturing. Will India be able to cover flows out of China? That's the while I don't want to sound, there was earlier wave of flow out of what do you call businesses out of China, for example, garment. India was not the great beneficiary. So unless we significantly change our act and become a more attractive destination for manufacturing, unlikely we will be able to cannibalize a large part of what flows out of China in terms
So
of
is there a question on our productivity level?
This is on the potential of businesses flowing into India, both services as well as manufacturing. The next question is that the next part of the question is that will we have a large amount of captives, the technology captives that moved into cities like Bangalore and others in the last financial year? My assessment is that there will be a significant freeze on capex and also on inter-country movement. So I see that flow of a significant amount of technology moving into India in FY 2021, my view is that it will be unlikely.
Right, sir.
I'll pause here.
Right. Thank you, sir. Arpit, your take on this?
So, Nimish, I will absolutely concur what Mr. Hegde was referring about it. But at the same time, we will go back towards a global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. Whenever these kind of a crisis come in, we see some kind of an opportunity come down to India. One is there are two reasons for it. One is the talent. We have the youngest talent, English-speaking talent in the world currently. Second is your cost towards it. Your cost is much lesser. So if the push is towards reducing your cost, whether you talk about US or Europe, we anticipate some more stuff will come down to India. Like Vinod referred about it, that almost 1,000 companies who are in China might are in discussion with government for some incentives. They are working along with government to see where they can come down to India. So again, this is work in progress. But our experience has been that whenever these kind of things happen, unfortunate things happen, there is always a business from a global in-house centers coming down to India.
Thank you, Arpit. So, Shaju, if
Namaste.
I may come to you now, and there are related questions which are being asked by attendees also, and I'm going to reflect them and then try and conclude in a summary as a question to you. There is a question which has come up given the pressure that the companies will face regarding OPEX cost, more consumables, less seat occupancy. What do you suggest companies to deal with the landlords regarding rentals, scam, pressure of cost savings versus sanitization? There is a related question again. Work from home eating into commercial real estate demand given the challenges of productivity, bandwidth, data security issues. Some data predictions on this would be helpful. So my question is, what expectations will CRE teams have from developers, landlords going forward in light of the questions which have just been asked with respect to OPEX cost optimization and issues related to productivity and security issue also? Shaju, you there?
The screen is frozen.
Looks like Shaju has frozen. Arpit, would you be able to take a part of this, please?
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Nimesh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there are few things which are currently happening in a current scenario. In fact, we foresee there will be freeze on the capex from a major IT occupiers. So we foresee that resurgence of a probably co-working enterprise models wherein these providers, instead of a co-working, they will be more of a financiers where they will be investing on behalf of the client for the short-term leases. Maybe those leases can be for the period of 1 year to 3 years to 4 years. These are assumptions. Second, while work from home, a few of the panelists talk about that it is going to stay for some time. We also anticipate the same. But what we also foresee that there will be a lot of space which will be given down to the employees back in the offices. There are few occupiers wherein 60 to 70 square feet. Previously, we have seen the trend that 120 square feet, it has come down to 60 to 70 square feet per person. So even if your 20 to 25% of the employees will be on work from home, that space should be, we foresee that in the form of wellness and will be given it back to the employees. So we foresee that the employees engagement and more space can be planned up within the same space.
Thank you, Arpit. While we still wait for Shasha to come, yeah. Yes.
No, yeah, over to you.
Thank you. While Mr. Hegde reflected a bit on that, if I can come to you, our efforts have been lauded internationally, given how we dealt with the crisis, and still at a stage wherein the doubling rate is possibly one of the lowest in the world. Will this, with this happening, the way we handled it, and I think I'll not just relate to this pandemic, but our handling of typhoons also in the east coast of India, Southern Peninsula, has been something which the world has watched with bated breath. Will this translate into India being a preferred outsourcing investment and business destination because the risk profile or the risk management appetite of us handling this is possibly, or risk management approach to for us handling this is much better than rest of the countries?
Yes, absolutely. I think we have shown it multiple times the way we have been handling our crisis situations, and this time more so. Whatever said and done, we have been able to showcase a better performance here in terms of managing this crisis, in terms of the number of cases that we have, and some states have done specifically better, especially better. Some have not so, but nevertheless, I think it's been a great effort by everybody and all and sundry, I would say. And will this translate into India being a preferred outsourcing investment and business destination? I think this has been coming not just because of this crisis or the crisis before this in terms of what we face in southern India. I think this has been coming for quite some time now. Let us not forget, 20 years back, all the productions moved to China, right? And then we had this Chinese coming out with the BRI, that is the Belt Road Initiative, which was nothing but a strategy adopted by the Chinese government, involving infrastructure development, investments in approximately about 80, 90 countries across Asia, Europe, and Africa. So what has happened now is everything stands disrupted, and the world is in a place where supply chain is affected, technology companies are facing a backburn, and the most interesting observation here is that the economies with the highest level of exposure to China, either through the supply chain being there, the manufacturing outlets being there, or because of the BRI, are the ones which are the most affected, right? And I'm sure they're going to deleverage their risk. And India is expected to benefit because when businesses will want to de-risk in having too much of all this concentrated in a specific place or specific zone, they will try and diversify and disperse. And not to mention that we have all the factors for great business in terms of human capital, social capital, natural capital, or the physical capital that we have. I'm sure we are going to benefit out of it. Now it's up to us as a country, as political leaders, how we leverage on this and how much we can bring here.
Thanks a lot, Rajan. So Biju, and I'll possibly be doing some rapid fire so that we save a bit of time over here. De-densification has been talked about. There are physical changes required to ensure safety and wellness of the people who come into the office. Is there a heavy cost implication, or is there a cost benefit analysis which has been carried out to make sure that this de-densification will work in terms of the immediate reaction to the crisis and immediate reaction to the regulations which will be put into place? Let me start with you, Biju, in this case.
Okay, thanks, Nimesh. So Nimesh, so this de-densification, this actually redefines the workplace metrics. So if you look at all these days, we were talking about space-centric measurements and the real estate, which is going to be, or you will see a shift from the focus from space-centric to human-centric. So all the measurements are going to be human-centric measurements. So the cost benefits which we asked for, I think it's too early to make physical changes of any existing infrastructure, as uncertainty around COVID-19 is still moving towards northeast. So having said that, I can see a couple of or a list of changes which we can make, which will have cost impacts. But if you think what kind of changes which we're making, so the immediate changes which we can make as using alternate workstations, so that the decentralization or probably 50% of density we can use or operate. But at the same time, see, all these days, most of the organizations have spent their time and effort for bringing the people together or physically together by providing a desk without a partitions, and it's quite a lot of real estate for collaboration and social gathering spaces and many more. So if you look at the alteration of these facilities or these arrangements which is already provided, and shifting or altering to make sure that we don't densify the floor, and we will have a minimum cost for making sure that social distancing is achieved. But if you look at the new offices, we have plenty of avenues. It's going to be a new design, and we can use all the potential or possible avenues to make sure that we operate in a better world.
Thank you.
I can also comment on the last point, probably, Nimesh, on the cost parts here. We also know that the kind of situation we are in today, we all have many industry leaders discussed on talking about the air conditioning system where we are in. So if you wanted to physically change or the system which we are currently using, taking more fresh air, is probably 80% of fresh air kind of thing, then the cost of doing these changes is going to be major.
Yeah. Thank you, Viju.
Yes, Nimish.
Amber, you have any take on this?
Well, Nimish, I will say that it totally depends on the current layout which the organization is basically working on. Now, suppose if this organization is saying that we give 60 square feet or 80 square feet per person versus an organization which is giving 140, 150 square feet per person. No, for the organization which is at the latter, which is giving 160, 170 square feet per person, for them to create a change may not be, may not cost them, because they have already kind of factored enough space per square feet. And the only thing that now this is the case that we are seeing in a Microsoft, right? If we have to do a test fit out, we are seeing that there is a loss of only 9 to 10% of the space that we have, right? Now, if you say 9 to 10%, then it doesn't come with too much of a cost implication to it, right? We can just change the layout, still maintain 1.8 meters to the 2 meters, and we are set to go. Nimish.
Thanks, Amber. While I would have loved to take everyone else's view on this, but given the paucity of time, I'll have to basically move over to the next question, because there are a lot of questions still coming from the attendees, and some of them are pretty interesting. So if I can actually go over to Narayanan over here and try and talk about your views on operating from co-working spaces in the near term. So shared mobility, which was being promoted now because of the social distancing. Now, this is a very interesting question which has come up. Will go for a toss. So how's that? We are looking at shared mobility still being an option, or and then trying to talk about shared working spaces, which requires a different level of sanitization approach to it.
It's a pretty too early stage for anybody to assess the co-working requirement, how we will be, because surely don't know how the new business are going to land in, how your requirements are going to change, because the work from home is going to increase. Obviously, your existing space is going to be available to you to play around. With that, going to go look at co-working solutions, probably very too early, too premature for anybody to decide at this juncture. It may take some more time, at least 6 to 8 months down the line, stability to come in and people to decide how to go about this. That's my understanding. Second, on the shared mobility, what you asked, yes, that's going to be currently with the safe distance maintaining. It's going to be, the governments are saying sedan vehicle, you can have only 2 people, one in the front and one in the back, and bigger vehicle with 3. So it's going to completely change. But work from home, currently, if I'm going to provide 100 people the transportation system, I'm going to look at only 50 people I'm going to provide transport tomorrow, because work from home is going to be 50% if I take it for granted. So it's too premature for anybody to have a concrete view on that. We need to see how the situation evolves, and then accordingly we need to react.
Mr. Hegre, if I can have your view on this, please.
Yeah. On co-working, again, so I might seem, some bit pessimistic in my remarks even earlier. The reason I'm doing that, and it's actually with a purpose, to drive home that post-lockdown, it is not going to be a normal world. I think we should take that back home, right? And now let me comment on co-working. The idea of co-working in the way it was launched anyway was running out of steam even prior to COVID, right? COVID only accelerates that process. There will be lesser demand for, underscore what I'm going to say, traditional co-working formats. My view is that there will be new formats that will emerge, and that is the opportunity for us to catch as the tailwind in how we go about putting together, commercial office workspace. Over to you, Nimish.
Thank you, sir. I think there are many more interesting questions which are coming up, and I'm sorry we are running very short of time. But one question I'll take up in terms of these independent silos like Erythropolis. How do you think the BCP will work in such cases? Anyone who can take this up, please.
I didn't follow that question.
Yeah, so there is a question which has been asked. The current BCP sites are located in densely populated geographic locations, which could be various levels of zones, and you have to coordinate with various government agencies. What's your thought on
Nimish,
considering
I'll
BCP
comment on
sites? Sir.
Yeah, let me comment on the BCP overall. The idea of BCP, the way we approach business continuity will take a dramatic shift after COVID. For example, the only other similar pandemic, comparable one, of course, was 100 years back, the Spanish flu. But when that happened, it was not a connected and globalized world. So the BCP idea of BCP will dramatically change post the COVID, and large organization. We are present in 71 countries, and so it's so much more complex because every geography has got it, right? So we think of BCP differently, and we will also get, sort of factor in possible resurgence of, the pandemic. Pandemics can happen, can come in more frequently. So the BCP itself will make a dramatic shift in the way we think and go about it.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for your take. Given that we have shot over time, I'm actually going to pose one very rapid fire question to each one of you one by one. In your opinion, is the corporate real estate sector likely to get reset or recharged post the COVID area? So Narayan, what's your take? Reset or recharged?
It's a mixed reaction. It can't be a straight answer. Will be very difficult without knowing what is going to unfold and how it is going to unfold.
Right, Captain Rajan.
I think yes, I agree to what Narayan says. It's too early for us to comment whether it is going to be reset or recharge. I think it's going to be both. It's a mixture of both.
Mr. Hegre.
The real estate sector across the breadth is going to go through a very difficult time for the next 12 to 18 months across asset classes.
You made it amply clear, sir. Biju?
It's not going to be a complete reset. But having said that, irrespective of COVID-19 exist or not, I see some specific changes in the real estate world from an occupier space, upstream, midstream, and downstream. The complete life cycle of a real estate operation, I'm seeing a change.
Perfect. Amber?
Well, it's going to be a mixed. It's at this point in time, it's a little difficult to say, though agree with what Mr. Hegre said, but it's again, wait and watch, and it can be a mix of both.
Right. Arpit?
Nimish, I also have a balanced view on this, but certainly it will go towards innovation. Not many things will get innovated over a period of a time. While people may talk about work from home, there will be a lot of emphasis on productivity, cybersecurity, and there are things which will evolve over a period of a time. So I also have a mixed feelings at this point of a time.
Thanks a lot, Arpit. Well, attendees, we have a lot of other questions which we'll take it up in a panel and make sure that when we produce the white paper based on this, it answers quite a few of your questions in that respect. Well, thanks a lot, every panelist. But in terms of basically, if I'm able to summarize what has been discussed today, we are yet to see the bottom of this crisis. We are yet to see the total impact of this crisis, not just within our country, but outside as well. And as Mr. Hegre mentioned, we don't know whether a second wave is also in the offing, which means there could be a situation which while we are discussing and deliberating today, our discussions and deliberations might take a completely different shape in times to come. Having said that, there has been an opportunity in respect of with respect to the adoption of technology innovations. making sure that we adopt better ways of working, making sure that we have sanity in, as Biju said, sanity in applying our space management principles to what we do, with other people reflecting upon the employee mental health, employee work-being, well-being is actually extremely important for most of the professional occupiers, and that remains a very welcoming approach. But despite the crisis, I think the employee well-being remains at the top of the agenda for most organizations. So with that, I would thank Colliers for their participation in it. I would thank each and every panelist for giving their gracious time for this very important thought leadership approach to what we can try and do in these challenging times. Uh, Anything you would like to finally add, Arpit, from your side?
No, Nimesh, thank you for this. And I would like to thank you, everyone, panelists, and everyone who has joined this webinar on behalf of the speakers and the panelists. Thank you so much. We will come back to you soon on this with a note.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great day and hope we see the bottom of it soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Nimesh.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.